Okay, do I need to back up or anything? Well, I can't really back up. Too
No,
much
because
stuff.
we're as close as whatever that cord is. But did you already put your line?
Mhm. Oh, they're all gonna see your password. You're calling me.
Mm-hmm. It only has one personal. Okay.
It said there were 7 or 8 waiting.
Okay.
Good evening. We are going to start here shortly. Mr. Liker's going down to make sure that all the teachers have gotten on the live link. This is how we do announcements. It's a private channel with inside of our school for YouTube. So we're going to pause and hopefully everybody can see me and hear me. And we'll get ready to start in a few seconds. If you need to grab some more pizza, you can do that, or water. Students, you will eventually need your iPad for this because we're going to do a practice test and you will need your iPad. So if you're hearing me and it may be on the charger, you may want to grab it and have a seat with it. But we'll wait to start till I get confirmation from Mr. Liker that everybody can hear me. So sit back and relax for a few seconds. It appears everybody is good to go. So we have a sheet that you can follow along because you can't really see the slides, but you can kind of see them behind me. Hopefully everybody is enjoying the pizza. We are going to learn about what iRead 3 is, as well as take a practice test, do a sample reading. At the very end, though, we will, Mrs. Hannikin is able to provide every child that's here with a book. So we're going to make sure that you stop by the library before you leave tonight. What is Public Law 109? Public Law 109 requires the evaluation of reading skills for students in grade 3. This started in 2012, and it ensures that all students are reading at grade level before going on to grade 4. The purpose of iRead 3 is to measure the foundational skills. We are going to take this test March 11th and 12th is our ideal testing days, that Monday and Tuesday. And then we have time for makeups the 13th, 14th, and 15th. It's all going to be taken online. So today we're going to do a practice test so you can kind of see what your child will see when we are actually testing. The good news is, even though it's a grade 3 test, we've been starting this since kindergarten. So the foundational skills, the skills you as a parent have been doing with your child since birth, reading to them, are all going to pay off. Third grade teachers have been beginning since the beginning of the year working on that. This second semester, we have increased our kind of preparedness. We've done some practice tests throughout the year, and they're kind of working on that a little bit more now that we're about a month out. And there are some sample countdown practice problems that they will do. Some of them are online through an ed site that we use that we issue to the students through Google Classroom. Now, I'm a little nervous to announce this news because this is new to us, but the state of Indiana says we are going to find out in 2 days the results. Now, that makes me a little bit nervous. We've been giving this test since 2012. Typically, it's about a month turnaround. We have a new program that is testing instead of using Pearson. We're taking it on the AIR platform, but they say we will have results within 2 days. So hopefully that happens. We will be notifying parents through a letter that we're going to send home with the children, whether they passed or did not pass. But I'm a little bit nervous to say it's 2 days, but that's what the state's telling me, and we'll wait and see. But I will definitely be communicating through Dojo the day that we are sending them home. If it does fall in that first week of the spring break, I will also be communicating through Dojo so you can know when to be expecting it. We send home an envelope. We ask students not to open them up here at school. They take them home, and it would let them know if they passed or did not pass. We have historically always been able to call those parents of those that they did not pass in advance during the school day. But we will notify you in advance of that happening. So the big question, and this is the biggest test that your children will take, it's the only test in grades K through 12. If they do not pass, they do not go to the next grade level. So what happens if they do not pass? They are not promoted on to what fourth grade. There are certain groups that can be exempted from that. They are called good cause exemptions. The very first one is a student has previously been retained 2 times prior to fourth grade. So they would have been retained maybe in kindergarten. Also in second grade, they would have an exemption on this test. Another group of students are students that have a learning disability. They would have an IEP. The case conference committee would decide if they could be promoted to the next grade. English learners who have an individual learning plan, those students also could have a goodwill exemption to be able to go to the fourth grade. Remediation, and especially this year, if we do find out within 2 days, we will immediately intensify the instruction that those students who did not pass would receive between now and the end of the school year. But we would also have a 2-week remediation. In the summer from 9 to 12, it's typically always been the first 2 weeks of summer. They come in, we remediate, go over test-taking strategies, and then they are retested. If they retest and they pass, then they would be able to go on to the fourth grade. If we retest and they don't pass and don't have a goodwill exemption, then they would remain in the third grade. And that's why I wanted all of you to come in tonight, because it is such a high-stakes test. I will say at Central Elementary, we have well over 90% of our students who have passed, so I feel really good about our passing rate. So it's not something to be fearful on. Our teachers work incredibly hard, and our students understand the value, and that's why we do these practice, so they can kind of see where they're at, so we can really focus in on that reading comprehension. The retest, again, typically it's those first 2 weeks, but once the state releases when those are and Lawrenceburg releases those, we will communicate those. But the last 3 years, they've always been that first 2 weeks of summer. All right, it looks like we are ready for a practice test. Students, I'm going to need you to grab your iPad. And I'm thinking about it. As you grab your iPad, I did not grab my sample iPad that I'm going to grab real quick. So hold on. It's up in my office. Well, you'd think I have a cell phone, I have a radio, I have a MacBook, I have this. I would have grabbed the iPad. So, boys and girls, you probably have your iPad in front of you. You are going to go to what is called the AIR Secure Test. Once you do that, And I know I'm going to try and really work hard to be slow. I have nobody in studio to make sure that we are all at the same point, but we're going to try. On this screen, there is a bottom one. It says, go to the released items repository site. It's a white little square, and I'm going to click in that. When I do that, it's going to say, please sign in. It's going to have guest users on. It's going to have guest session on. And that's exactly the way I want it for this practice that we're going to do today. And I'm going to hit the sign in. Once I get there, it's going to ask what grade. We are all going to go to the 3rd grade. So you just click the drop-down menu. And you go to 3rd grade. Hopefully this is going smooth out there. I'm going to try and pause. I'm sure we have teachers walking around trying to help. Mr. Liker is out there trying to help. Once you get to this screen, you are going to go to the Start iRead 3 Released Items. It's on the far right-hand side. Now this one, there are some items that we could change. We aren't going to change any items here, and we're just going to hit the green Select button. Now, this one is where we have to hear. And this is the one that I've really been talking in the newsletter about making sure that you have headphones or ear-pods or whatever so the students can be able to hear it. But I'm going to hit the button. You will probably hear a lot of this in your classroom because they have to say that they heard the sound to be able to go on, and then they can click Continue. And then I'm going to get to one that says Begin Test Now. I do have to confirm the self-lock mode. Self-lock mode, it has to go to yes, and it means that the iPad is locked and secure. And I'm on question 1. I have no idea where you are, so I'm going to pause, and I kind of go back through this screen. And I'm sure Mr. Liker is going to tell me at some point if I'm way off base. Are you looking for this? For iRead 3?
I'm looking for wherever my daughter is.
Do you know who her teacher is?
No, I don't. I think Render maybe.
Yeah, toying now. You're going to walk right out this door and down, and it's 306.
306.
Yep, you'll find it.
I don't know if it's Render. One of my daughters got Miss Render. The other might have Miss D maybe.
That's in 4th grade, so it's Miss Rendler, I promise. Go to here and turn left. To the end, yeah? Perfect.
306.
306. And maybe Mrs. Hoying can step into the hallway and grab you.
Very good, whatever you want to call me.
Oh, so Mr. Liker says, he says on the radio, this is why we have so many devices to talk to each other. We are ready for the first question. I'm going to FaceTime into him. Technology, we got to love it. Mr. Liker, I can see your face. But I cannot hear you, Mr. Liker. You know what, Mr. Liker? What if we use the radio and the video? Oh, yes, they're all waving. Mr. Liker, would you talk into your radio?
We can do that. We are live down in 301, Miss Kaniga.
That is fantastic. So let's take a look at the very first question. It says, which word that has the same vowel sound as sad? So boys and girls, you should be looking at question 1, and you are going to mark which word has the same vowel sound as sad. I'm going to give you guys some time to mark your answer. Mr. Liker, when you think we've given enough wait time, why don't you show a kiddo and see if they can't talk in to the walkie-talkie so we can hear them.
Got my first victim that is ready to give the answer to number 1. Hey, why don't you share your name, because I don't think all of 3rd grade knows, and then answer it for us.
Logan Fox.
And what did you get for the same vowel sound as
Crash.
I believe I heard crash. Excellent job, Logan. And he picked crash. All right, boys and girls, once we've submitted that, you are going to hit the next button. You can see the next button up at the top. and you will go to the next question. This one says, choose the same word that means the same or about the same as the underlined word. Now, we can, in some parts of the test, we can read the directions, and in some parts, we cannot, and then the part that would be underlined, we wouldn't be able to read. So there's some discrepancies kind of here, but there's a specific set of rules we as test administrators have to give for this one. Mr. Leiker, do we think anybody knows number 2?
My friend Lexi back here is working with mom, so we'll see how if mom's ready for this. Lexi, do you want to give what means the same word as sad?
Angry. Sad. Unhappy.
Yeah, say that loud so they can all hear.
Unhappy.
I got an unhappy back here, Miss Kaniga.
Awesome. Good job, Lexi. That's a great answer. If you don't have unhappy, please mark that now, and then you're going to hit the next button. You're going to go to question 3. It says, choose the word that means the opposite of the underlined word. Oh, wonderful. It looks like, are we in Mr. Abden's room?
We're live in 303.
All right. Looks like it's
I'm in this office room right now. Brogan, what means the opposite of give?
Take.
Excellent job. Very good. We are going to move to the next question. And parents, if you didn't notice on the last, I try to move on without giving an answer. If you try and move on without giving an answer, this software will not let you. You actually have to give an answer before you go on. For number 4, read the sentences, then choose the word that correctly completes both sentences.
I think my friend Jolie has an answer.
Train.
Excellent job. Train does complete both sentences. The train is coming down the track, and you can train your dog to fetch the newspaper. Excellent job with that one. Let's go to question 5. And again, parents, you can kind of see how these are kind of foundational skills at this point. We are going to look at suffixes. Find the word that has the suffix and only the suffix underlined.
Friend Andrew has the correct answer, and it is
Careless.
Excellent job. You are correct. Careless. We have a lot of really smart kiddos here at Central. The next question, 6, it has 2 parts. So, Mr. Leiker, we're probably going to look for 2 different students to answer this. For each of the blanks, there's a list of words. Choose the word from each list that best completes the meaning of the story.
Jonathan has the answer for the first part, and it is
Door.
door.
Excellent job. Door is correct. Close the front door so the warm air stays inside the house. Excellent. What about for the second part, Mr. Leiker?
I'm going to put on an extra from Kirsten.
Sweater.
Sweater if you are still cold.
Excellent. That's a great answer. Very good. Now, teachers and students, when we look at this next one, we're on 7 and 8. It is the snow hopper. Now, it is an actual story. When you are looking kind of at the iPad, and I'm going to, hopefully you can see mine, you can make the snow hopper bigger, and then I can close it off to the side so it gets smaller when I look at the questions. I'm going to mark 7, and then I go over to 8, but I'm going to have to mark both, and I'm going to have to read that story. And I just want students to kind of take a second to kind of look at the software with their parents so they understand that this one, I really do have to read all the way down. I'm going to be silent for a while because that is a few paragraphs to read. So boys and girls, you are going to read it and then answer 7 and 8. I love how we're in Mrs. Hoying's room kind of looking. I can see students working incredibly hard to try and find the right answer.
Mrs. Kaniga, since Mrs. Hollings had 2 names this year, I'm going to do questions 7 and 8 from her name. So if you know her as Miss Rindler.
Yes, I do sometimes make that mistake still. So yes, please, do we have somebody for question 7?
My friend Peyton is going to tell us the opposite of certain.
Unsure.
Excellent job. Unsure is the correct answer. What about for question 8? Well, interestingly enough, Mr. Liker, it appears we have a poor connection right now.
Still live on the scene, though. I think the tornado's taking out my connection, but I still got my walkie-talkie.
Okay, that's great. What do you think 8 is? Do we have somebody there that can talk to us?
My friend Jacob's going to help us out.
All right, Jacob.
In the winter, snowflakes fell down the beach and the planes flew behind the...
Excellent answer. I know it's a little hard sometimes with our technology to make it sound perfectly clear coming through, but you did a great job. That was the correct choice. The very last one there is correct. Now that ends this actual part of the test. One of the things that I think parents sometimes, and students, you can hit end test, and that we're just going to end the test and we're going to submit the test. It kind of goes nowhere and we say yes and we want to log out. So there's some steps along the way. We can eventually just close out of it and swipe out. They're really used to swiping out of these. When we think about the test has multiple parts, and it has a lot of the foundational skills, which is what the practice test gave us. And then in essence, it has a whole bunch of stories, typically about 6 on each of the other parts. So 3 on one, we take 3 different parts of the test. One is a foundational test, and then we do 2 that are comprehension. And when we do that, it's typically a story, 5 questions about that story, another short story, 5 more questions, a short story, and 5 more questions. And that's kind of how the second 2 sessions are. So very typical to reading a short passage and then being able to answer those questions. Teachers use a lot of ReadWorks, which would be a short passage, and then 5 questions to go with that. Mr. Leiker, I'm probably going to need your help to use the timer on this next part. I don't know what I did. Yeah, I need the timer. Just if you will use this. The next part is, how does your child read and how does it look on grade level? You will have a single sheet of paper and it talks about Land's first day at school. Okay, so students, don't start reading that yet. And we just want 1 minute up there, Mr. Leiker. And we are going to have you read in just a second, and you are going to read it to your parent. And parents, you're just going to sit back and listen to them read. And then I'm going to put up on the slide kind of where they should be at the end of 1 minute when we talk about reading fluency. We talk about it here at school. We test on it. It's a great predictor of reading comprehension, but we're going to do a little segment on that. So, boys and girls, please start reading. All right. It looks like we are done with the reading. And then if we click the slide, perfect. And I'm going to have to advance this quite a few to, will you go to present mode? On the far right, yep. Very good, we're going to slide through. Here we go. Parents, so you can see the first 3 paragraphs I have in red up here, and you can see all the way to the word play is where they should have gotten to. So some of our students may have been a little short of that. Some actually may have been able to finish the passage. But that's just kind of a glimpse into you so that you can see kind of what we're doing here at school and why fluency is so important. A couple things you can do. Making sure that your child is reading a book that is just right for them. We want them to be challenged a little bit, but not having problems with it and they're not being able to decode all the words. So it's super important that we do that. When we do our Ames Web testing as well as our NWA testing, it will give us an actual Lexile level. So if you ever wonder about that, on Thursday when we send home progress reports, we're sending home the Ames Web report, which also has a Lexile level on it. But you can always ask your child's teacher. Support reading at home. Ask them to bring home their book. Do partner reading, choral reading, as well as reading some parts of the book more than one time is always a great strategy. And in the slides, we just put some questions. What questions could you be asking? You could ask your child to predict, ask them to retell. Those are all things. What do you think the character's feeling? Why did the author pick a setting that's a certain setting? So there's lots of ways then we included that you can take home as ways that you can help your child at home. There is a question and answer sheet that is located on your desk. If there is something that you want to know more about iRead 3, I would love if you'd write that down. Please give it to your child's teacher. I will address any and all of those questions in our newsletter this week, hopefully to bring some clarity to you. If you have individual questions, especially about the good cause exemptions, you can certainly direct those to me and how that would pertain to your child. And the last thing is free books. Yep, we said it. The library has a host of books in here. Boys and girls, when we are all done and your teacher has dismissed you, because I've done a lot of talking, I'm going to let your child's teacher do whatever they need to tell you. I also know it's Tech Tuesday, so iPads are going home, so there's a lot to get done in those classrooms as you are going to clean up from the evening. But we're going to have you enter in from the side that's closest to your classrooms. You're going to pick out your book. I'm going to move all of this out of the way. And then we're going to actually have you exit this way up the ramp and out the front of the building. It'll help a little bit with congestion. So when you walk around, you can thumb through a book, find a book on one of the tables. I know it's super busy times for all of our families, and I can't thank you enough for coming in tonight to help support your child as they take this test. Thank you and have a good evening.